Well, hello, Movement Conversations. Hope you're doing well. It is season 2, episode 25. It is February the 18th, and I apologize. Nothing went up on Monday. Nothing went up on Tuesday, but it's Wednesday, and something finally is going up today. So thank you for being understanding. Some weeks we can get it up on Monday, some weeks not as much. It just all depends. We are literally in the process of tearing down and setting up and tearing down and setting up every week. So hopefully, if I can get my home office eventually finished, I'm going to have everything at the house so I can record at home and I'm not structured to have to tear up and set up and tear up and set down and tear up and all that good stuff that goes with it. Hey, listen, so today I want to take some time, 30 minutes or so, and I want to talk about something I think that is very important. It may not be what everybody necessarily is looking to hear today on this podcast. It's not one of these topics like, oh my goodness, it's the greatest thing in the world, how to save my home, how to save my life. No, a little bit different today. I want to talk about private discipline that creates public impact. Private discipline that creates public impact. I've been pastoring for 20, looking back on the wall over here, 23 years, 22 years now, something like that. And anybody I've noticed that has ever made major impact in the kingdom has often had a tremendous private discipline in their life. And I say not even in the kingdom, but maybe in the cardiovascular world, in the business world, in the financial world, in their home world, whatever it is. They've always had a tremendous impact in what they do in private before it's ever seen in public. And so we see guys who maybe are financial geniuses, but we don't know the hours they put in behind the scene. And we don't know marriages. These marriages that we see that are looking really well, we don't know how many years they struggled to get it right, but they've tried time and time again to really add value to their marriage, add value to their home. And after a while, it just really paid off for them because everybody wants impact, but few people want the discipline that comes with the impact. Everybody wants a platform, but few people want the preparation that comes behind the platform. And here's the truth. If I could kind of cartel this podcast for one thing here, the size of your public impact will never exceed the strength of your private discipline. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today because I don't know. I hope this podcast hits whether you're a pastor, a leader, a businessman, a businesswoman, a mother, a father. Maybe you're starting a business. Maybe you're in leadership. I don't know what it is. Maybe you're just trying to do better health-wise or what have you. But I will say this, that what happens in private determines what lasts in public. Now, we always think about it, what we do in private shows up in public. But I think it's more than that. I think what we do in private determines what lasts in public. Because we live in a culture that if we are honest and open and we are having a truthful conversation, we live in a culture that is really obsessed with visibility, followers, likes, views, stages, recognition. And I get it. I mean, this podcast alone is built on the ability for somebody else to like what I'm saying and then in turn share that conversation with somebody else. And they in turn share it, and they in turn share it, and they in turn share it. And I don't care who it is. Everybody in some way wants to have that viral moment where it's a ministry, it's a platform, whatever it is. They want that moment where what they are doing is valued enough that somebody thinks enough of it to share it with somebody else. So I don't negate the fact that we are all obsessed with that. Maybe not obsessed is the right word in some platforms, but we do want followers and we do want the likes and we do like the views. I mean, all of us have done it. All of us have got on social media and have put posts up before and we're like, man, they didn't like what I had to say. And the reality is maybe they just didn't see what you had to say. People like stages, they like recognition, but God, in the infinite wisdom of God, God just builds differently. Before David ever wore a crown, and I know this is going to sound cliche, but before David ever wore a crown, he fought lions in private. Before he ever faced Goliath, he developed courage alone. That's so rich. Because I'm going to tell you what I found out, and it took years for me to figure this out, and I don't have it all together. I mean, clearly, I'm not pastoring a mega church, and I'm not pastoring tens of thousands of people, and I'm doing my best to hold things together sometimes, and I don't have tremendous this, and I don't have a major following, and I'm not preaching somewhere every night of the week, so I don't know that I have it all figured out, but there's a few things I've figured out, and this is one of them, that nobody applauds private obedience, but heaven measures it. Jesus said in Matthew 6, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door. Notice he didn't say if, he said when. Private discipline is not optional for kingdom impact. It's foundational. And I think the most important thing you have to discover is that you don't rise publicly, you reveal publicly who you have become privately. I'll say it like this: you don't build character in the spotlight, you reveal it there, so that everything you see in the spotlight is what was done behind the scenes. And here's the danger, especially for pastors, for ministry, for leadership, for businesses, for parenting, any area. And I've seen this happen before, and so I'm careful to say this because I think people need to hear it more than we do. If your public exposure grows faster than your private formation, collapse is coming. I heard Bishop Wallace say years ago, again, plug to Bishop Wallace. He has an amazing podcast, Bones and it's not Dry Bones. What is it? Bones and Breath. Maybe Breath and Bones. That's it. Anyways, he made this comment years ago talking about church growth. He said that he would rather, and if you're watching this, you'll see what I'm demonstrating with my hands. He would rather a church grow like this than like this, because if it grows at a steady pace, it bows a lot better, I guess, versus if it goes straight up, it's going to fall a whole lot faster. And I think for a lot of guys, and we're seeing this in leadership lately, we're seeing this in pastoral ministry, we're seeing this across a lot of plateaus. I say pastoral because that's what I'm most closely connected to, is that a lot of people, their exposure grew faster than their private formation and collapse hit them. Because talent can open doors, but discipline is what keeps them open. Talent can open the doors, but discipline is what keeps those doors open. And so I think we have to maybe, if we're being honest, maybe what we have to begin to do is redefine what discipline is. Because discipline isn't punishment, it's alignment. That's kind of been the word that we've been feeling lately in our ministries and our churches. We've heard it across the body of Christ and different people we're connected to, is that word alignment. And I go back to what I just said. Discipline isn't punishment, it's alignment. Because people hear discipline and they think restriction, they think legalism, and they think rigidity. In other words, they think it's got to be very rigid. No joy, none of that. But biblical discipline is not about punishment. It's about alignment. It's choosing long-term strength over short-term emotion. Jesus fasted privately, he prayed privately, and he withdrew privately. Now think about this. Luke 5:16 says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Now think about that. A lot of what he did, I believe in corporate prayer. We have corporate prayer here. We have corporate fasting. I believe in all of the corporate gifts like that. But at the end of the day, there comes a time where you have to withdraw privately because you can't have no interfering voices. You got to fast and pray and withdrew and pull away. He did it often, not occasionally, but often. So if the Son of God protected private time, if he did it, why don't we do it more than what we do? Because public power follows private presence. If Jesus needed solitude, what makes us think we don't? I'm not talking about your morning coffee or your afternoon coffee or whatever it is where you just have to have, sometimes you need quiet moments. That's different than what I'm talking about here. Quiet moments are where you just cut everything off and relax your mind for a minute because you're about to have a mental breakdown. I'm talking about private devotion. Discipline is not about trying harder. It's about structuring your life so you can stay aligned. So you don't drift, you never drift towards strength. You drift towards weakness. Nobody accidentally becomes spiritually mature. Nobody accidentally builds integrity. Nobody accidentally stays faithful for decades. That happens on purpose. It happens on purpose. Nobody drifts towards that stuff. I know people say sometimes we just fell into it, or we just fell into the goodness, or we fell into promotion, but I don't know that it happens as much as we think it does. I think even still that stuff happens. Even still it happens because we've displayed a measure of discipline somewhere or another that opened a door, that opened another door, that got us into this room, that got us into that room. And because of the discipline we had in private, we thought it was falling forward. But God said, no, I'm just giving you favor. Even when it doesn't seem like I'm giving you favor, I'm giving you favor. And so what is practice? If we had to define what practice discipline looks like, I think we get practical about it. Private discipline isn't mystical, it's measurable. It's not mystical, it's measurable. So here are a few areas I think that'll help you develop private discipline so that what you want God to do in public. I hate this mic stand I've got right now. It's driving me crazy. Squirrel moment. If you want to give money to the podcast, I'm just messing with you. So let's get practical. How do I do it? Number one, you got to have daily time with God. Now, for me personally, and I'm understanding this more and more every day. Daily time with God is not time for me to prep my sermon. It's not time for content creation. It's not time to study for someone else. It's not time to study for a meeting. It's time where I feed my soul. It's time where you feed your soul. There's a difference between studying the Bible and sitting under the Bible. No one builds information, or one builds information, the other builds transformation. One builds information, studying the Bible and sitting under it. The other builds transformation. So if I'm sitting under the Word, if I'm in the Word, I'm not just reading the Word to get a message. I'm in the Word to get transformation in my life. Now, I'm speaking to preachers now, and this may not affect everybody, but your public preaching will dry up if your private prayer dries up. It's inevitable. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it where I've got up to preach, and I'm like, man, that was terrible. People applauded. People loved it. They thought it was the greatest thing in the world. But at the end of the day, I knew nothing hit that day. And a lot of it goes back to those moments where maybe I didn't pray enough that week. And I know we think, well, you got to put a time out. No, for me, I know what it takes during the week. And it takes more than what I think it takes. So you got to spend daily time with God. I think you got to have emotional discipline. Not every thought deserves a microphone. Not every feeling deserves a reaction. Man, that's rich. There's times that I want to say stuff so bad, but I just don't, because not everything I feel up here needs to come out of here. So I'm at a point in my life, and I've been like this for a few years. If I have to deal with something, I'm giving myself a few days, if not a week or two, to really think about it and process it, because I want to make sure I say the right thing, because when you say stuff, it's out and you cannot get it back. Not every feeling deserves a reaction. You know, when things happen all the time, I heard Bishop Jake say a couple years ago, and it just always rang true to me. We don't have to be the first one to pop on social media and give a reaction to something the moment something happens. Why do we feel like we have to do that? Something goes down, I got to give a reaction. Something happens in the world, I got to give a reaction. Something happens in my life, I got to give a reaction. You don't have to give a reaction, because there's some things that they never deserve a reaction. Private discipline means processing before you post it. Pray before you respond, and pause before you react. Because public explosions usually trace back to private neglect. Now, there's moments you may get caught off guard, but if it is constantly a public explosion, you're constantly just boom, 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 boom all the time, there is some neglect in your life spiritually. We don't want to hear that, but that's the reality of it. There's some neglect somewhere or another, where we have to step back and say, okay, so maybe I have the spiritual side. Maybe I know how to discipline myself spiritually and spending time with God. But what about my emotional discipline? You may preach well, but how do you treat your kids and your wife? You may lead well, but how do you treat your friends? So over the years, we've seen so many pastors and leaders that over time, these staff members and these other people come out and they're talking about how they were just like mentally abused while they were on staff, and they were just emotionally abused while they were on staff. But these preachers were preaching to thousands of people every Sunday morning, but they were treating their staff like crap. And I'm like, wow. And see, when I hear that, what you preach means nothing to me at that point, because it's the way you've treated other people, especially people that are there to help you fulfill the vision. I say that I hope my staff don't think I treat them like crap. I don't think I do. I think I'm pretty good to my staff. I don't have a large staff, so it's easy to be good to them. It's easy to be nice to them. They put up with a lot with me, though. I'd say I'm probably a pretty emotional person sometimes. Number 3, integrity when no one sees it. Somebody told me, they said, this wasn't a podcast. These are mini sermons. I said, whatever, it's a podcast. It's got a podcast title, Movement Conversations. Whatever. I said, you don't have to listen to it. Integrity when no one sees. Character. Character is who you are when nobody's applauding you. Private compromise always precedes public collapse. It rarely starts big, it always starts small. Skipping prayer, cutting corners, feeding secret appetites, excusing just this once. Impact doesn't implode overnight. It erodes gradually. Marriages don't fall apart overnight. They erode gradually. Ministry doesn't fall apart overnight. It erodes gradually. Relationships don't fall apart overnight. They erode gradually over time. Over time. Over time. We'd done some remodel on the house, and I called my buddy. I said, I got to get some gutters put on the house. I said, because there's a spot on my new part where this V meets on the roof, and it has a ton of water coming down it. And the other day when it rained, it looked like a waterfall in my backyard. And I know that if I don't get gutters put on and if I don't get drainage on, all of that water is going to erode and erode and erode. It's not going to happen overnight, but gradually I'll have a hole in my backyard. So integrity when nobody else sees it. Number 4, physical and mental stewardship. Sleep matters, health matters, rest matters. You cannot pour publicly if you are empty privately. Burnout is often the fruit of undisciplined pace. And God didn't call you to impress people. He called you to endure. And endurance requires rhythm. I just said a whole lot right there. You cannot pour privately if you're empty. You cannot pour publicly if you are empty privately. Burnout is often the fruit of undisciplined pace. God didn't call you to impress people. He called you to endure. And endurance requires rhythm. So health matters, sleep matters, rest matters. All of that matters. And I'm one of those people, I want to go, and then I crash. And most of the times the enemies have attacked the most is when I am the tiredest, when I'm worn out, when I've been running. And thank God I have such a wonderful support team around me today with elders and board of directors and staff and lead team and family that helped me navigate that. But for the longest time, that wasn't the case. So you got to have mental and physical stewardship. Part 4. I don't know why it says part 4. I think in my notes I meant to say number 5. So, when I break down my wording for my podcast, sometimes I break it down into parts so I know where I'm at and I don't lose track here. So why do people avoid private discipline? Let's be honest about it. We avoid it because it's unseen. This Friday, we're kicking off Morning Glory, 5 a.m. prayer. Nobody is clapping for 5 a.m. prayer. Nobody. I've got people showing up, but the line to play bingo is 150 deep. The line for 5 a.m. prayer is about 4 deep, which is fine. It is what it is. It's no big deal. Not everybody can be here. I get it. It's all good. But I'm just saying there's things that nobody's going to clap for. Nobody celebrates your hidden obedience. Nobody reposts your integrity. But here's the key. What is unseen by people is never unseen by God. Hebrews said he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Notice that word diligently. That word means consistently, persistently, and intentionally. We avoid discipline because we want immediate results. Discipline produces compound growth. Man, that is rich. One day of prayer may not feel like life-changing, but 365 days, that changes a life. Consistency beats intensity every time. You have to be consistent. If you can be consistent, you can see change every time. Every time. Diligence, consistence, persistence, intentionality, getting up every day doing it. I love people that are gym rats and they are consistent to go to the gym. I got people in my neighborhood, they walk every day. Don't matter unless it's pouring down rain, they're walking. Every day they're walking. Every day. Consistency. They live for it. I love people who are consistent in their disciplined prayer life. They live for it. Their word life, their family life, their home life. They are consistent. So if we're trying to figure out what manifests in the public, I think we have to look at the private roots, the roots that nobody else sees. Because here's what I'm finding out, that good fruit grows when roots are deep. If your roots are shallow, there's one thing that's going to expose it, and that's the wind, that's the elements, and that's the storms of life. If your roots are deep, storms will strengthen it. Let me say this clearly. Your family will feel your private discipline. Your church will feel your private discipline. Your business feels it. Your team feels it. Everybody feels it, or they feel a lack of it. They feel a lack of it. Public authority is sustained by private submission. I'm giving you so much today. I hope that you'll go back and listen to it. Public authority is sustained by private submission. And I'll say this to you, you cannot lead publicly where you don't submit privately. We are asking God to do so much in our lives today, and we're wanting to see God move in our lives, and we are desiring to see God move in our lives. But at the end of the day, so much of what we want God to do hinges on what we do behind closed doors. What we do when nobody else is looking. How we maintain our prayer life, how we maintain our devotion life. How do we treat our kids? How do we treat our wife? I know we look like we treat them the best in the world when we're in public, but how do we really treat them? How do we maintain that disciplined life? And for everything inside of me, I'm telling you, it starts with what you do in private. Everything you're wanting God to do in public right now really depends on how much you just can maintain in private. You got to get them roots deep. They've got to grow deep. They got to grow deep. Fruit grows when it's deep. And the problem is when trouble comes, when wind comes, when issues comes, when setbacks come, when upset days come, when bad days come, when your life is falling apart, please hear me and hear me closely. The wind will shake you to your core, and if you are not deep, you will be scattered. Jesus said, the wise man built his house upon the rock. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. And when the rains come, when the winds come, when all of that came, the wise man's house stayed put, but the foolish man's house went splat. So let me begin to land this plane of discipline. Stop praying for impact if you're unwilling to build discipline. Stop it. Stop asking God for influence if you won't cultivate integrity. Stop chasing stages and start building structure. That is so good, because the next season of your life is not unlocked by exposure. It's unlocked by consistency. And here's what I want you to remember. God trusts disciplined people with influence because they won't confuse platform with identity. And private discipline is not glamorous, but it's powerful. It's where strength is built. It's where pride dies. It's where clarity is formed, and it's where character hardens. It's where you become who you say you are. It's where you're really made. And when the moment comes, and when the opportunity opens, and when the door swings wide, you won't have to scramble. You'll be ready because you prepared privately. And what God builds in private, God will sustain. I pray to God that so many of us out there would build a private life that will make heaven proud. I pray that we'll look at our life and figure out how we can do better. Not just do better for the sake of doing better, but do better because we want to see God do things in our life, our home, our marriage, our jobs, our children, our family, everything we do. But it's got to start in that private, disciplined life where you say, Lord, you're more to me than anything else. And when that happens, God begins to elevate, God begins to change. And what you've been asking God to do for a lifetime, God can do in a matter of moments simply because you've gone public before you've gone private before you've gone public. Amen. Well, I hope this little episode has challenged you today. I hope it's made you think a little bit. I hope it's brought some clarity to your life. It's not as long as the other ones. I just cut it short today. No rhyme or reason. It's just the way it happens sometimes. But if this episode has challenged you, if it's helped you, if it's encouraged you, if it's inspired you, not that I want the likes, but it would be nice for somebody else to hear this. It would be nice for somebody else to know what's going on. So share it, send it to somebody who's chasing impact. And remember, movement is not built by hype. It's not built on hype. It's built on hidden obedience. I love you. God bless you. I'm praying for you this week. Have a great, great week. This is Movement Conversations. I'm your host, Chris Hall. I will see you next week for another episode of Movement Conversations. Episode 26 drops next week. Can you believe it's episode 25? Wow, that's great. And it's all because of you, because you made it possible. I love you. I'll see you soon. Have a great, great week. Keep on being obedient. The Lord will bless you.